Hi there, and welcome back to Straight Talk for Mental Health. I'm with KG and Associates. I'm Karen Goslin, and I'm here with my associate Janice D'Souza. And we are doing a podcast today for our listeners about mindfulness and meditation. And excited to have another guest. We've had so many amazing guests recently sharing their pearls of wisdom with us. Today we have Kristi Stangeland, and she is an international retreat leader, author, lecturer, and private meditation coach. And she has created my I hope I say this right, My Paravita Circle, which is an online meditation membership program. She is also a certified miracle choice facilitator and guide for the Gene Keys program, and has also completed a feng shui master's training program. So, can you believe all of what I just listed off there? That's amazing. I'm excited to have you here today, Kristi. And what we really want to focus in on is the benefits and practice of mindfulness and meditation. So, welcome today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karen and Janice, for inviting me today. And the minute you said you want to come talk about meditation, I was like, absolutely. I don't even know what we're going to be doing, but I love to share talking about the practice and
Yeah, and
people's lives.
exactly, and I'm excited. I'm excited that you're excited. And I want to hear about what you do. And I'm just going to preface all of this with the fact that I've been wanting to go to your events for years now, and finally dropped into an event at the winter solstice recently. And this is why I was also really excited to have you, because what you did at that event was so incredibly powerful for other people there, and for me as well. And I know it has really helped me set my intention for the year in a very different way, and my own mindfulness practice that I want to talk about as well. So let's just jump right in. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it and why you do it?
Well, I'm going to back up to how I got into meditation, which was, I feel so thankful because I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I was down, in the 80s, working on Wall Street, one of those harried Wall Street executives, and I had a couple kids and I was just juggling it all. And if anybody had said, Kristi, fast forward in, 20 plus years, you're going to be doing wellness retreats and talking about meditation, I would have been like, what are you talking about? So it just, I ended up leaving corporate because of my younger daughter, because a lot of times something pulls you out.
Mhm.
And I read a book about creativity, and I wanted to figure out what my next chapter was going to be. And the book said to sit quietly for 5 minutes. And I started doing that. I thought I was going to my mind was racing. I was, jumping out. I wanted to go call this person, do the dishes, but I am very tenacious and I'm going to become creative, darn it. So I just kept at it. And then it was like 5 minutes, went to 10 minutes, went to 15 minutes, and I started to crave it. And I was sharing this with a neighbor who said, I think you might be meditating. So I, at that time, was living outside of New York City. So I went to the Open Center in New York and did a practice with Alan Finger. And that was when I officially started meditating. So that, I feel like I was very blessed because I didn't have all these preconceptions. I mean, everybody now, at that time, like yoga was exotic. Now there's a yoga studio everywhere, right? It's very common.
Right.
But at that time, people weren't really talking about meditation.
I love this part of the story, don't you, Janice? I forgot that you worked on Wall Street. I remember hearing that years ago, but I forgot. And what that rat race was, but also the calling in terms of what happened for you and your family, maybe, and then this idea of 5 minutes. Boy, I can totally relate to that, right? Because it's like 5 minutes would have felt like 5 hours, probably at
Oh,
the beginning, right?
oh, it was, yeah. And, people will tell me that's how they feel because I end up getting a lot of type A people just like myself. And I'll be like, really, it can happen. And when it does, it's unbelievable. And to me, the benefits, it wasn't so much the health, but it was really the mental health. It was the feeling less stressed. It was not having my mother-in-law push my buttons like she could do in the past. So those were the things that I started noticing after I was doing this meditation practice.
Yeah, that I guess that's the power of it, right? Is finding some way to drop into that so that whatever you can tolerate in that quiet 5 minutes
Mhm.
becomes a useful practice. I don't know if this will hit for you or not, but what I sometimes say is it's about making the breath familiar so that when you need it the most, you know where to find it. So that reminds me of kind of
Yes.
what you're saying around the button pushing, because why are we even doing this? There may be some immediate relief of what that 5 minutes will give you, but for
Right.
me, if we zoom out, it's like it's not just about those 5 minutes, it's about how that serves you in other parts of your life where your buttons are getting pushed.
Oh yeah. And actually just last week I was doing there was a feng shui summit. It's the first time they've ever had a summit, and I was doing a 30-minute presentation. And I do Zoom all the time, right? And I went in the morning to just see the intros and stuff, and my speakers were not working. Like I couldn't speak. And I tried. I tried everything. It was like I tried booting, rebooting. I tried, doing this, doing that. Nothing. It just kept coming up. And my mantra was, "Thank goodness I meditate. I'm going to figure this out. Thank goodness I meditate." And then it hit me, remaining calm. It hit me that I could call in to the number and use my phone to, as I was speaking. So a very good example
Isn't
for
that a great example? What do you think about that, Janice?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just reflecting back on so many times where I just go into panic mode when like I have to present and like something and I'm like, oh my God, but it's a simple fix. But if I just taken like those few minutes to catch myself and like
right.
really be in that moment, I could have figured out like it's not that bad. Like there is a solution right in front of you. So I love what you're sharing. I can relate so
Exactly.
much.
Yeah, and I think this is a big part of it, right? For the clients that we serve, or maybe some of the listeners that are tuning into this, because none of us will do well in panic mode, right? And all of our problem solving kind of goes out the window. And for some of the clients that we serve who are coming to us with anxiety or depression or going through major grief or trauma, it takes on a whole other level and meaning. So illuminating the ability to problem solve in the heat of the moment is what I call it liquid gold. This is the liquid gold
Yeah. Oh, I love
because,
that.
right, there's so many more options that
Mhm.
we're accessible to, that our panic driven brain, or what we call fear driven brain,
Mhm.
Yeah.
will hijack for us, right? We get hijacked.
Oh,
And
yes,
then
and I have a very good imagination. I can I can come up with a lot of worst case scenarios, right? So yeah, being able to stop that. And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of when the pandemic first hit. I mean, that's the thing. I was seeing a germ on every doorknob, and one of my daughters is in Brooklyn, and the numbers in New York, I was going to the news every day and the cases are going up, and just that nobody knew what was going on. And I was in fear mode. But I feel like my practice allowed me to step back and go, okay, what can I do? Because I am in fear mode. And I started and that's the thing, we can be like the shoemaker's children too, right? You kind of
yeah,
forget all these things. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna stop 3 times a day and do 3 deep breaths, and making sure my exhale is longer than my inhale, because that engages the parasympathetic system.
yeah, yeah.
And that really like was a game changer for me during that time.
Yeah, because I think it's when we do our cognitive restructuring program that benefits from meditation, I always say to people, my favorite part when I do my CBT is that second last step, which is, what do I really want? What
Mm,
do I really want? So this is similar to what you're saying. What can I do?
Mhm.
because we feel better when we're in a constructive way, being
Mm,
able to interact with whatever that problem is in a way that empowers us, because the panic and fear will indulge our wounded self and we'll be in reaction mode going in circles.
yes.
So the two things that I'm hearing right now from you is this, getting us into this place, which I want to hear more about what can I do? But also
Mhm.
I love that this mantra of I will figure this out, because there's a positivity that comes from choice,
Mhm.
that I have a choice here. I may not even know what that is, but I know that I will somehow figure this out. There will be some solution.
Yes.
And you're in that situation of asking yourself, what can I do? So this is empowerment in a mindful rather than scrambling in the panic.
Right.
Am I
Right.
am I saying that in ways that you know think about, or how do you take all that?
I love hearing that because it is taking what I'm saying and saying it a little differently, but it's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same message, and I love that. So
Yeah. So tell
yeah.
us what you do. I know you have retreats. I know you lead your meditation groups. Like tell me what you're doing in this area and how you're doing it.
What I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Well, so I'm about to leave tomorrow. As I said, with the group, we're going to Shinalani, which is right outside of Puerto Vallarta. We fly in there and take a boat to a peninsula. And I have been doing a lot of work with something called the Gene Keys that was founded by Richard Rudd, based on human design and also the I Ching. So when I had heard about the I Ching and from my 3-year master, feng shui master program, I was like, oh my gosh, and this was something that I found out about during the pandemic. So I was able to really spend a lot of time and became a certified guide for it. So we're going to be doing some work around that at the retreat, along with meditation, and really encouraging people to unplug and move slowly.
Yeah. This is interesting. I love that you offer these international retreats, and I think I looked on our women's club schedule, and I could see that you had a lot of events coming up this year, all over in Maine and Mexico and all
Yes.
kinds of places. So unplugging and going slowly. So tell us a little bit about what you teach people.
Well, we go into the whole idea. There's all sorts of different types of meditation, right? I mean, and in my book, any meditation is a good meditation because it is having you slow down. But I do feel like silent meditation is the most powerful
Mhm.
because it does have us deal with our monkey mind, which we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
And it allows us, the Buddhist concept, right, to be kind of a witness to what's going on in the monkey mind, and you are not your monkey mind. So having that, and people will be like, well, I can't do silent because I've got all the thoughts going. And it's like, well, that's it. That's what we're working with. It's being able to recognize the thoughts, to let them go, to realize they're not yours, to be able to kind of disengage yourself from them. So we always do a lot I'll always move in with guided meditation just to kind of get people into that zone. And then we move into silence, which can go up to about 18 minutes.
Wow. Can you imagine that, Janice? 18 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It's just so interesting, like the power of silence, unplugging, just moving slowly. And I feel like a lot of the work that we do, I hear like a lot of clients come back where that's the most challenging part for them because their thoughts are always all over the place. Or as Karen mentioned before, we work with a lot of clients who are dealing with anxiety. And often that is where the monkey mind kind of takes over, our thoughts kind of take over. So
Yeah.
it's really, really useful what you're sharing. But at the same time, I know it's a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I particularly love what Kristi's saying today about separating us from the monkey mind, right?
Hmm.
Because when we're indulging that anxiety, we are the monkey mind, right? Like we've taken, like they call it the banana, right? We've taken the banana, and we're chomping away on the banana because we're hungry and we need more monkey mind, anxiety. So as soon as we separate that we aren't our thoughts, right?
Yes,
That
yes, absolutely.
we are outside of that. Can we be outside of that? So that, as you said, I love this, witnessing the monkey mind rather than being the monkey
Hmm.
mind, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also with the retreats, I always love to have, I don't teach yoga, but to have somebody doing yoga, because I think it's a very important thing for people to take a break and kind of embody what they've been, taking in, or conversations that we've been having. And then there's always, very healthy, good food. And a lot of people ask this, but we do have cocktails and wine. It's not a Buddhist, a monkey treat or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not just eating celery and water and
No.
fasting.
No, it's very flavorful, healthy food, along with, having fun. It's bringing a community together, and usually women that go on these, but not exclusive. It doesn't have to be, but it's just
Yeah.
building their community for
Yeah.
a week at a time, or a long weekend, or something like
So
that.
what happened for you if I can go back a few minutes, what happened for you in your process? So you started, in developing this in your life and finding this tolerance for the quietness, and
Yes.
where did that take you?
Well, so, it's never a straight line, especially in my life, it's not a straight line. So it's kind of like I decided to become own my own business and be a web designer. So this was in 1999. Before I had to convince people to have a website. That's what, there was no Google.
Oh my goodness, 99, really? And
There
in
was no
some ways,
Google.
that's not really that long ago. Like,
No,
what's
it's not.
happened in those 14 years? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. But continued having a meditation practice. And then at some point, my dad passed away in 2010, and that kind of makes you reevaluate. And '08 had happened, and I just wasn't having fun anymore.
Mm.
People were doing, WordPress, they were doing their own websites. And that's when I came across this feng shui program in New York at the Open Center again. And my heart just said, you've got to do this. And I said to myself, this makes no sense. I have no idea. I don't want to be a feng shui practitioner. Like, why? But it was just this draw. And I do, will say a benefit of the meditation was listening to this deep intuition and just saying, all right, I'm going to do it. And so I signed up for the 3-year program. And interestingly enough, I did not know this, but there was a lot of meditation as part of this program.
Mm.
Because it was started by Professor Lin Yun, who has since passed, but he was, there are pictures of him with the Dalai Lama. He was quite a spiritual leader he was in the San Francisco area. He'd moved from China. And his whole feeling around the feng shui, people think of feng shui as like rearranging the furniture and things like
Right,
that.
that's what I thought about it.
But his premise was, you need to change your energy first. And then what you have in your environment will reinforce. I mean, it may take away and you need to change something, but it's really starting with the person and their energy.
Wow.
Which was so perfectly aligned.
Incredible. And what I find incredible is that you went into it not knowing that, but yet there was something that in some ways, in a deeper way, did know that, right? Because you were called to it,
Yes. Yes.
And I think that that's a good point, right? Because when we can hear our heart, when we can listen to ourselves more intuitively, where maybe the monkey mind is kind of trying to add it all up, but wait a second,
Trying to make it logical,
right? Yeah. And it's like, we're overthinking this, and then we end up getting lost. And sometimes, our language with our clients is the healthy self or the wise gut, right?
Okay. Oh, yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when we do our emotionally focused programs, we help people look at, that deeper ideas. I read somewhere that our nerve endings around our stomach are only second in complexity to our brain. So this whole idea of what the wise gut, but when we are overthinking or in that overly fearful place, we'll either not even hear the wise gut, or if we do, we'll override it or ignore it. And yeah, if it's too logical, we end up, solving the problem, but we're still not happy. We're still not
Yes.
happy.
Yes.
We're not living our full life.
Yeah.
So, this
Yeah.
idea of hearing our heart or trusting our gut,
Mhm.
because it may not add up, logically, but yet intuitively, our
Exactly.
healthy self is saying, do this and go with that. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, when that happened, when I moved up to Toronto, which was 10 years ago now, I sold my web design practice and decided I was going to be a feng shui practitioner full time. That
Yeah,
was going to be
and I think
my,
that's what you were doing when I met you. Yeah.
yes, and I still do. I haven't discarded that. I love doing consultations, but it's not my focus anymore. And so I was doing my feng shui practice, but I had gone on a retreat and had reintroduced people, or I reintroduced myself to doing kind of chakra clearing meditations. And that's what I was doing on a daily basis with everyone, because we had 7 days and I figured, oh, 7 days, 7 chakras. And when I came home from that retreat, I was like, that I really want to incorporate this. I really want to make this, something that I'm having people do and help, reaching out to people and teaching them about. And that's how the My Parvita Circle started, the online meditation program. But also what happened was we were in Maine. We had a small place in Maine and decided to get a new place. And the realtor drove up and she said, I've got this amazing place. It's amazing. You guys, it just went down in price. You got to buy it. And she drove us over and we're going down this long road and I'm seeing, the boathouse and the dry boathouse and the cottage. And I'm like, what in the world would I do with this?
What am I doing here? Yeah.
And I'm stepping out of the car and it was just like this thunderbolt said, you're going to have retreats here.
Oh
It
my
was just,
God. Oh my gosh, I just got a chill up my spine.
and again, totally illogical. Like, what did I know about retreats? I had never, created a retreat, done a retreat, never been, some people really want to have a place to have retreats. And that was not me, but it was just this message that this is what we were going to do.
You got out of the car and it just like hit you.
Yes, yes. And, my husband and I talked about it and, he said, well, he was flying back to Toronto. He said, on your way home, call the financial planner. She'll talk us out of it.
Yeah, because she's going to start doing the numbers,
And I called her and she said, oh my gosh, you've got to buy this place.
The universe opened up.
It did. So that was how I got into doing the wellness retreats.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So what a journey, right? What do you think, Janice?
Yeah, like I'm literally in silence right now, just embracing everything you're sharing. It's amazing how your process all came together. It was like
Mm.
when you first entered, you had no idea that this is where it would go. And I just love exactly like when you said you stepped outside, weren't expecting to get this place, but it was like something in you was like,
Yeah.
yes, like this is where these retreats are gonna happen and this is a place. Like it's amazing what you've done so far.
Yeah, yeah. It's that openness that starts expanding our life.
Mm.
Because once we're in
Mhm.
that place of, everything will be okay. What can I do? This will get figured out. It's this, I feel like our choices just get
Mhm.
bigger and better because
Yes.
we're living the life we're meant to be living. It's authentic. It's speaking to us. And to me, that's real power. Like that, to me, that's real power.
And something you said about like it's about changing your energy, and it's like once you embraced it and recognized like yes, like my energy's in this, it's like all of these things like came to be and like surrounded you. It just reminds you of like I think that saying like you attract what you give off. So that
Mhm.
positive energy and all of that. So really in line with what you're sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think if we're too much in our head, sometimes it's like the answer is right in front of us, but if we don't see it, because we're so
Right.
much in our head, we miss it, right?
Yeah.
And then we don't even know we missed it, but yet we're
Well,
still kind of unhappy, right?
yeah, I love how you saying that because at that time I had really wanted to go in and do corporate workshops with meditation. And I had created a little side business called Zen Zone. And I was like trying, working with, I did one pilot with a company and then I hit a wall and I couldn't get, they wanted me to come in for just the day and do something. And I'm like, no, this isn't a day type of thing. Like you need me coming in weekly to just kind of touch base and make sure people are spending just a 3 minutes of, meditation a day. And so it hit me after I was in Maine at the retreat, after we bought it and I was there for 6 months and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my Zen zone. Like,
Yeah, let's make that part bigger. Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's like you have to, if you really are, looking to do something and it's right, it just may not show up like you think it's going to show up.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and if we aren't open, if we're so overly invested in the outcome,
yes,
what we think it was supposed to be or should be, we will
yeah,
force it. And I suppose it'll be what it is, but it won't be what it was meant to be, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of that openness of letting go of what the outcome should be, because
Hmm.
then sometimes what we need is right there in front of us. And it's like there for the taking, but we'll miss it if we're too much in our head. Yeah, the monkey
Absolutely.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just having this thought yesterday about because I know Janice, I guess you have some younger clients. How lucky I feel I was in the sense that, for many years working, we didn't have cell phones. Like
Mm.
we went on a honeymoon for 2 weeks and nobody could reach us.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's a
now,
honeymoon. That's a real honeymoon.
people are, they're so tethered to their phones, right? Yeah.
Tell me what
And
you think about that comment, Janice, because this is I worry about this a lot in terms of what's happening to our monkey mind when we are in this like constant scrolling of
Mhm.
posts and videos and what's happening. What do you see with your younger clients on that?
I think that's exactly it. Like even getting that downtime where, I encourage them to maybe just shut off for a bit, like keep everything away. I always have them come back saying, "Oh, it was a struggle. Like I tried like putting my phone away 30 minutes before bed to do like a mindfulness practice or to just kind of like gather how my day's been." And every time is just that it's such a challenge because social media and everything out there where once you get started on scrolling, you don't realize how much time has passed. And
I know.
it's like majority of your day it comes down to, oh, I don't have time, like I don't think I had enough time to meditate, or I don't think I had enough time to do this practice. But then it's like, okay, tell me how much time you spent on your phone today scrolling on TikTok or something like that, and then it's like, oh, you're right. So so I think it's just that it definitely is a challenge for like the generation now because we're so attached to our phones. And I speak even for myself. Like you're right, going on vacation and everything, it's supposed to be your downtime where you shut down away from everything, but we're
Yeah.
just so attached to it. And even, with the younger clients in high school and university, it's that attachment to our cell phone. It's almost like their safe getaway. Like they feel safe within that social media environment. And it is that encouraging that more of the downtime, taking that space away, recognizing like where you are in this moment and really giving yourself that space to, detach from it all.
I know. I think this is a big issue, right? I think this is a big issue because I feel like our devices are just giving the monkey mind
Yes.
banana, 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 right? And
Yeah.
it draws us in. And I love the social media. I'm a big Facebook user, but it's like, how do we do that and dip into that without letting it consume us?
Hmm.
And I love what you're saying, Janice, also in terms of like, because we will hear this and I still hear this, is that I didn't have time to meditate. I didn't have time.
Mm.
Right? What do you think about that, Kristi? I don't have time to meditate.
I hear you. And so when I am working with someone, my suggestion is always to do it first thing in the morning.
Mm.
Wake up, probably go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, and then just do 3 minutes. Because, and if you don't have time, set your alarm for 3 minutes earlier. Come on, 3 minutes. How can you say no to 3 minutes? And it can eat just that little bit of time. They've done studies that can make a difference on sleep patterns, just a very short time, as long as it's going into the silence. So that is always my recommendation for people. And that's what I do, because I just know how it goes. It's like, oh, I'll meditate, at 11, or I'll meditate in the afternoon, or even at night, something pops up and you're kind of feeling tired, you're not motivated. But for me, it's like first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
I
I love
really
that. Hmm.
I really love how you're normalizing like 3 minutes is enough, because I think a lot of times when people hear about meditation or practices of mindfulness, they think it's like has to be 15 to 20 minutes of silence and sitting there, and that scares them right off the bat.
Right.
So I really love that you're acknowledging like even 3 minutes, taking 3 minutes of that time in the morning is going to make that small change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find, I mean, that's what happened for me, right? It's like, 3 minutes, and then your body starts craving it. So you're like, oh, maybe I can take a couple more minutes after, maybe I can do 5, but letting it happen organically and naturally, I think is the way to do it.
Yeah, I love that, because it does poke a hole in a bit of like, who doesn't have 3 minutes?
Mhm.
So it pokes a hole into the monkey. It challenges the monkey mind to say 3 minutes. Come on, And sometimes what I'll say to our clients is pay yourself first, because you're right. Sometimes when our day gets going, it'll get easier and easier to get ourselves off the hook of talking ourselves out of doing something we need.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
kind of like, pay yourself first. And of course, a lot of the coaching trends last year, maybe coming out of the pandemic, I don't know, but evolved into this whole idea of early morning quietness to set the intention of the day, right? So I want to hear more about this research, because the benefits we've been talking a bit about in terms of having choice and making sure it's okay and listening to ourselves. But once we start getting even further, we start to look at more of the nitty-gritty about sleep patterns and what is happening in a bigger way to improve our overall health and well-being. So tell us a little bit about this. So what do you know about some of this research around sleep benefits? What else is happening?
Well, I just know there's the one study that was done, I think it was by Dutch researchers, that were looking into, how long and for what period of time would something make a difference. And what they found was, I think it was 3 minutes, it might have been maybe 5, but a very short period of time, over, I think it was just a month, where they started to notice that the people's sleep patterns improved.
Mm,
And I
amazing.
know that our minds can be, I mean, I know my mind does this. It'll be like, oh, okay, if I can't do my 18 minutes, I just shouldn't do it. And then it's like, no, I have to practice what I preach. So I know I have a busy day, but I'm going to sit here for my 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I said earlier that I went to your winter solstice meditation.
Yes, I want to hear about this, Karen.
Yeah, so this is what happened, and I'm, I try to practice what I preach too. I don't feel like we can talk to our clients and tell them what to do or give them ideas, and then we go off on our merry old way. Like what I've been saying more and more is like, I test it out. We have to test out the things that we're teaching. I want to have like a firsthand experience of what we're trying to show our clients, because we can just speak to it a little differently,
Yeah.
right? And we can hear it. And yeah, I have a busy mind, always have, and my whole meditation practice has really evolved, even more so in the last 5 years. And the idea of finding my breath. This is where, for me, and I'll tell you a bit more about the winter solstice in a second, but this idea of finding my breath when I'm triggered.
Mm.
And this is the liquid gold, because when we're in that reactive place, so what I've been trying to do in my own mindfulness practice is to really, really listen to my breath. And
Mhm.
like I say to clients, like, know where to find it when we need it the most. Because for me, this is what it's really become, is that because I can go into fight mode when I'm triggered, and I'll say too much, or I'll talk too loud, and it's too much, right?
Mm.
So this, for me, finding my breath with my practice has been to pause, right?
Mm.
To truly create that pause where the action is stopped just long enough for me to decide what I want to do. And so for me, it's always been, it has evolved into about making the breath familiar. And I'm seeing this almost on a daily basis. And for me, I've when I finding my breath, I stop talking. And when I stop talking, I let go of like the fight.
Mm.
And then I truly have started to feel the power of choosing what I want to do next.
Mm.
And I'm seeing this, like an example in my social life recently, where there was some drama playing out with some friends. And I remember we were all sitting at a table, and I started to feel like that upheaval of like, oh my gosh, this is getting like, I'm so upset about this, or I'm feeling like I got to say something about this. And then I went, and then it's almost like you see it from above,
Yeah.
where you're like, maybe for you, what you were saying earlier, we separate from the monkey mind, because rather than just being in the
Mm.
Yeah.
middle of all that drama, you see it from above. And I remembered, Karen, find my breath. And when, as soon as I find my breath, I stopped talking. And then I was very selective about what I wanted to say next,
Mm.
and let go of the judgment, let go of what it was supposed to be, and speak into it in a way that is so much more intentional.
Mhm.
And the whole table just kind of calmed, right?
Yeah.
And it opened up a completely different conversation that allowed us to depersonalize, to take out the judgment, and to figure out what to do about this problem we were facing
Mhm.
in such a more compassionate way, right? Because when we take out the judge, we replace it with compassion.
Yes. That's beautiful.
What happened at the I keep calling it full moon, because there's all these full moon events, and I've gone to, so I started going to these full moon meditations as well, but that was the winter solstice. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
there, and you're guiding us through this, and it was really silent, and I know you're going to talk about that in a few minutes, more in a few minutes. But I'm sitting there, and I start to imagine my year, because this was like just before Christmas, right? And I knew that this year would be quieter. I had like a really crazy, exciting 2022. And if I inserted compassion into my mindfulness practice that night, the word that came up for me is to not resent the quietness of 2023.
Mhm.
And rather than kind of fighting with, you know, um, having a quieter year because I was still paying off bills of 2022, and I can't, do all that big traveling, and this little temper tantrum within myself. And then I'm like, what if I don't resent it? What's on the other side of resentment was openness, embrace. Yeah, I think you used that word a few minutes ago. Embrace the quietness of 2023. How will that serve me? And then everything, honestly, it just blossomed. It just like opened up, because if I don't resent the quietness of 2023, but I embrace it, and then it's kind of like that thunderbolt moment you had when you got out of the car, because I didn't sit down and go, okay, so then what? And then what? I just opened, right? And the word creativity came. Totally unplanned.
Love that.
And I followed it. I kept following it. And when creativity came out, it was photography, making new recipes, and writing.
Uh-huh.
And I just kept I trusted it. Like I trusted it rather than questioned it. And
Mhm.
honestly, I went off on my Christmas holidays and I'm like, this is incredible. I'm not going to resent paying off my travel bills of 2022. Like, where's that going to get me? And
Yeah,
if I embrace the creativity, and it happened, right? I'm in a photography course.
so
I've
wonderful.
tried new recipes and I'm doing what I've wanted to do for 6 years, which is write a book,
Wow.
write my first book. And the whole, it's just worked out that way. Yeah. So that was my powerful experience at your winter solstice. What do you like? Isn't that incredible?
It's so lovely. And I would say that was another thing that when I first started going quiet, that I noticed that things would bubble up. Not so dramatically as that, but and I know there's an expression, something like, when you pray, you're speaking to God or the universe, fill in the blank. But when you meditate, you listen to
Oh,
the universe, to the God, to God or whatever. And it's like, I got big chills on that, right? It's just such a powerful thing because that's what you're allowing things to bubble up.
oh my gosh, that's it. That is it. That's it, right, Janice? It's the listening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we say less, if we talk less, if we argue back less, we hear things that we otherwise wouldn't even know was there.
Yeah, that reminds me of that saying we put together, less is more.
Less is,
Mm, yeah.
yeah, less talk, more listening. So tell us how you do the silent meditation. We have just a couple of minutes left. So do you want to tell us a little bit, and maybe even we can
Well,
and Janice, if you have any questions that you want to ask, and then we'll maybe go into a silent meditation just to give
yeah.
listeners a taste of what this is all
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And I guess, you kind of experienced it during the solstice, right? Basically, I have people take a couple deep breaths just to, and, here we are up in our minds talking to each other and just, bringing ourselves down into our body. So it's kind of like what you were talking about when, getting into the breath. I don't focus on the breath, just in the sense of deep, the deep breaths. I know it's a very common thing because the breath, it's that one organ we can we can kind of control, right? You can't say slow your heartbeat. I mean,
Yeah,
there are people that do that, but it's not easily accessible. So
right.
yeah, so just feeling the body, getting into that place, and then doing a little bit of a guided meditation so that you're in a good place when you go into the silence.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna taste that in a few minutes
Yeah.
here. Janice, do you want to ask a question before we load into that?
Yeah, Chrissy, I mean, just going back, like, I know you already know I work with the younger population who it is often more challenging to do these practices. What would you say, like, do you have any tips as therapists who work with younger adults or teenagers on how to really encourage them to take that few minutes, or what's
Mm,
a good practice really to encourage them to do to start off until,
Mhm.
it becomes more of that habit and they start to crave it? Because I do find that a lot of times with this population, like they do struggle because they're always like, my thoughts are all over the place, like I can't do it. And
Yeah.
obviously you try to encourage it, like embrace the thoughts. It's okay, bring it back to the breath. But if you had any like tips on how we could use that to really better serve that population.
Yeah, well, I think I have two daughters that are in their, one's 29, the other one's at 32. So kind of in that age, and there is a lot of anxiety out there. And of course, I can't tell them to do anything because they just roll their eyes at me. But
they're not listening. They're not listening, Christy.
their friends listen to me. That's nice. But and it's really trying to meet people where they are, right? So when my husband when we moved up here, he took on this very stressful job, and I knew there was no way he was going to be sitting in
Mm.
silence. So I gave him actually a qigong practice to do. Getting him into the body, getting him into the breathing, but again, telling him he had to do it first thing in the morning. And I said, and another thing to do is I kind of made it a challenge. I said, listen, just do this for 30 days. And,
Mm,
you can drop it after that. But 30 days straight, if you miss a day, this is a feng shui thing. If you miss a day, you got to start over again.
Oh, is that feng shui? When you miss a day, you have to start again?
Yeah, that's what when we give adjustments. Well, it's actually 27 days because they like the number 9. But and so he did it, and of course he just dropped it immediately out. You know, the next after when he hit day 27, he went to the office. He came back and he's like, I had the worst day. The next morning, he's there doing the qigong. You know, a 10-minute practice. I mean, very short, but moving.
Mm.
You know, again, but it's getting you into your body. It's getting you into a different zone. You're not scrolling on your phone, you know.
What I like about what I'm hearing, Janice, and this could be helpful for who we serve, is that there's options, right? There's just not one way
Yeah.
of doing this. And everybody, you know, we encourage people to kind of find their own way of doing it that kind of works for themselves. Yeah, this idea, because I don't know if it still fits, but it says, you know, it takes a month to form a new habit, you know.
Yes.
To do it repeatedly. And then I really love that word you used today, was craving, because once it takes hold and we start to feel better, we miss it, right? If we don't do it. Yeah.
Yes.
So
And also, you know, all the apps that are out there, Calm, and, you know, I mean, even though it's not silent meditation, it's still, any kind of meditation in my book is a good thing. So start, you know, as Karen, piggybacking off that, just starting that can be a great way to just start.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, apps, right? That's gotta, you know, if we say it's an app, then maybe there's a segment of that population that goes, okay, I can do this. I can do this. It's not meditation, but I'm on this app. Yeah. Makes it a bit sexier, I guess.
Yeah, there's actually a lot that refer to apps, like they have these mindfulness practices that they do on apps. So maybe that's a good start. But I love what you were sharing. I think I'm gonna try it myself for the next 30 days.
Yeah, we got to do something.
And getting them in a habit on a regular, you know, like every morning, that this is what I do. You know, it's kind of like you don't leave the house without brushing your teeth, right? You just
right.
Interesting.
And because then we say, like, yeah, this is really how I want to start my day. Like, this is really, this really fits into my routine. And yeah, it should be. Maybe it gets to a point where it's like brushing our teeth, you know, and if we don't do it, we feel bad.
Yeah.
So why don't we wrap up our podcast today with some experiences of the silent meditation, and I'll have you lead us into that in a few minutes. And then I think I'll just end the podcast. So why don't we do our wrap up in terms of how people can contact us, rather than going into the meditation and then getting back into our heads. Don't you love that?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll go into that in a few minutes. But for anybody who's listening, who is concerned about their mental health or their overall well-being, and they want to find a therapist that can help them incorporate some of these mindfulness ideas into improving their health, as well as all the other things that we do at KG and Associates, but really kind of plugging into this idea today about how to feel better, to be making wiser choices, be less reactive, being able to listen to their really wants, to drop into their lives in a way that will get them closer to fulfillment. We are KG and Associates. I'm the founder, Karen Goslin. Our website, KarenRSW.com. My email address, KarenRSW@yahoo.ca. You can also reach me directly at 647-985-0633. And for you, Janice?
Yes, my email address is j6dsouza@gmail.com, and my direct line is 416-316-7686.
And Kristi, if people want to explore this on its own, or go to one of your retreats, or be part of your coaching, how do they find you?
They could email me at my initials, KS, and then it's at myparavita, MYPARAVITA.com.
Great. Sounds good. So let's go into this, but thank you again for joining us, Kristi. This was, I don't know how you feel, Janice. I thought this was a great topic and really fits with the work we're doing and how important it is for all of us to find our own journey through this silence and through the listening. So thank you again. And I'm going to just turn it over
Thank
to you.
you. Thank you. It was a great conversation. It's it's always lovely to hear different viewpoints around kind of the same topic, right? So
Well, I always think it's good when we get the chills up our spine because it means like something's really fitting and resonating.
yes.
So
Yeah,
hope our listeners had some of those as well today.
beautiful. All right. So I'm just going to ask you to get comfortable, and obviously we're sitting in chairs. So, making sure your feet are firmly planted on the ground, having a soft gaze down or closing your eyes, whatever feels right. And noticing your spine kind of rising up, making space between the vertebrae. And because we've been in our heads talking away, thinking, let's just move our attention down the body. So starting at the crown of our head, just imagining almost beautiful warm water moving down and relaxing the muscles. So the back of the head, the forehead, the area between the brows, the eyeballs, just relaxing and releasing, noticing the ears, the jaw, maybe just even moving the jaw just slightly to release it. Moving down the neck, the shoulders, reaching the chest, releasing the chest. Just set your intention to go internally also, just noticing the area around your heart. I invite you to take a beautiful deep breath into the heart space, making sure you release slowly, slower than your inhale. A beautiful deep breath in, and then a gentle release. Moving down the torso, the hips, noticing the belly, again, I invite you to take another deep breath, maybe even putting your hands on your belly. Taking a beautiful deep breath in and slowly release. Moving down the thighs, kneecaps. Again, just relaxing, releasing, letting go. Moving down the shins, the ankles, the soles of the feet. Taking a moment to do a much quicker body scan, just noticing if there's anywhere else that you'd like to release today. Right now, I invite you to just notice, how are you feeling right now in this space? From this space, I invite you to we're going to take 1 minute of silence. I invite you to use a mantra while you're in the silence. It could be love or peace. Just slowly and gently repeat it to yourself. Being aware that thoughts will come and go, and that's okay. Just return to your word or your breath, knowing it's all part of the practice. Now we'll start to come back to our body slowly and gently. From this space, I invite you to just send out gratitude. I want to send my gratitude to Karen and Janice for having me on today. And just know that the more often you go to this space, the easier it is to get to. The more calm you can be during the day. And I like to come back into my body by rubbing my hands together, just creating some heat. Starting at the top of my head, just feeling the body. It's going down my legs to the soles of my feet.
Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you.